My name is Paddy Nicol. I'm President and CEO of Evrim. And with me today is also Bob Felder. He is President and CEO of Renaissance Gold. And today is an exciting day, I think, for all stakeholders of Evrim and Renaissance, as we're combining both companies together to form Origin Royalties. And Origin Royalties is going to be an organic royalty creation, a royalty acquisition, and a mineral exploration company. The transaction represents the evolution of two prospect generators with a vision towards growth and value creation under a new business model, but with ties and roots in mineral exploration. When we first started discussing a possible merger transaction between both Evrim and Renaissance, we focused on obviously our cornerstone assets, that being the Ermitaño deposit and the silicon project in Nevada. But we also quickly realized that the synergies between both companies and what can be achieved both from a geographical perspective and obviously a geological perspective. And so Bob and I are very excited to share these plans with you. So without further ado, Bob, I'll let you take on the next slide.
Okay, sorry, I think I was a little behind you, but well, Paddy, why don't you do this one and then I'll go next.
Sure. Okay. That's okay. I mean, it's just what I've said. We've entered into an arrangement agreement combined on a merger of equals in which Evrim will acquire all the outstanding stock of Renaissance. That equates to a valuation of 1.2448 Evrim shares for every share that a Renaissance shareholder holds. As I mentioned earlier, when we first got involved in the transactions, one of the key features of understanding the whole mergers of equals concept was based on the transaction that was underway or is still underway between Renaissance and AngloGold Ashanti. And obviously the news of the payment, we were all confident that payment from AngloGold Ashanti was going to come into the market. And at the time, there was a fair gap between both companies in terms of market value. But as that payment came in, the gap narrowed considerably. And so this is why we thought about the concept of merger of equals, and we got very close to that as that news came evident into the market. And so I'll pass it off to you, Bob, for your next one.
Okay. So good morning, everybody. Just to go through some highlights of the combined company. As Paddy mentioned, we're bringing in some royalty assets. Ermitaño, which is in Sonora, Mexico, is being advanced by First Majestic Silver. Silicon Anglo in Nevada. That's, for Ermitaño's pretty near-term production. Silicon is a little bit further down the road. Also adjacent to Ermitaño, the Kumababi, 1.5% royalty. And also Renaissance is bringing in some exploration stage royalties in Argentina that were generated in a predecessor company. So we do have a royalty portfolio building. The combined company will have good financial strength, the near-term cash flow from Ermitaño, and hopefully if we do our business well, we will create more cash flow in the near term from other royalty acquisitions or creations. We start the company with a pro forma as of a week or two ago at about 13.5 million. When we bring the companies together, there will be significant cost savings and synergies with G&A, et cetera. And we're bringing ourselves into an improved capital market scale. So we'll have the ability to look for royalty generation on a variety of fronts. On the technical side, we mentioned organic royalty generation. We have extensive expertise in Western North America. Our team in particular in Nevada, but also in Western North America, and the Evrim team in Canada and Northwest Mexico. And both companies are bringing active joint ventures and alliances across multiple terrains. So we're really extending our reach in terms of possibilities to create both successes through discovery and royalties in a broader geographic distribution. So again, it really creates a company that can do a lot of good things, and we're both very excited about that.
Okay. So taking a little step deeper into sort of what the gold royalty assets look like, as we've mentioned, sort of the two cornerstone pieces being Ermitaño and Silicon. For those who are new to the Ermitaño story, this is a project that Evrim had in a joint venture with First Majestic Silver between 2016 and basically 2018. The royalty was crystallized, and during that time, First Majestic made a discovery, and that discovery is now nearing production, we hope, and with production plans planned for 2021. As you can see in the resource table there, for the indicated and inferred, on a combined level, using numbers from First Majestic's resource calculation, you're seeing 300,000 ounces of indicated resources gold, and 370,000 ounces on an inferred level. When you factor in the silver resources too, you're probably nearing something in the range of 800,000 ounces when you combine when you're using First Majestic's numbers. So we're excited towards that. This year, First Majestic is spending approximately $29 million in development. This is an underground target or an underground deposit that they'll be pursuing. It is situated within 4 miles of the Santa Elena Mills, so your startup costs are not like a typical mine development. A lot of the infrastructure is already there. And so later this year, we'll expect to see a pre-feasibility study in Q4 2020, along with trade-off studies and such. And so we're excited to see that. It'll allow us to value the resource more succinctly, but definitely plans are in the way. And so from the perspective of the combined entity, this is certainly the near-term revenue potential, the near-term value creation that puts the company on a good platform. Bob, I'm going to let you speak to the Silicon project in Nevada.
Okay. So as the market knows, AngloGold as operator of Silicon hasn't been releasing any data, but there's a lot of evidence to support a significant success there. First of all, they've paid us $3 million, so that's a very positive development and indicates that they're very bullish on the project. They have applied for a large permit, which is close to approval. They were in a comment period until June 5th, and their permit will allow them to disturb an additional 155 acres. And their phase 1 of their permit, and this is a public document, which is why we know this, allows for the construction of 109 drill sites. So there's a lot of evidence that they're very bullish on advancing this project quickly. Their CEO has, in the last couple of years, even before now, even in earlier times, has made some very positive statements about the project. He talks about their operations, and right in line behind the operations, he's mentioned Silicon. So there's a lot of reason to think that Anglo is going to take this the full way. This is in the Bear Mountain District in southern Nevada, where Corvus Gold has been busy advancing Mother Lode and North Frog, and now Coeur recently entered the picture out there by acquiring the Sterling mine a year or so ago. So there's a lot happening there. We look at Silicon as a project that could generate a multi-million ounce deposit based on the size of the alteration signature out there, and knowing that it's based on their results and their activities so far, we're confident that they've drilled significant gold mineralization. So we look at Silicon as a midterm royalty that might be generating revenue in 5 to 7 years, and we're waiting for that story to play out. But nonetheless, it's very positive, and we're excited to bring that royalty into this company to complement Ermitaño.
Great. I guess the final piece we'll talk about in this slide is the Kumobabi royalty. It, like Ermitaño, in fact, it's adjacent to Ermitaño. It sits in the Rio Sonora Valley in Sonora, Mexico, and you've got it's quite a neat little district. Not only do you have the Santa Elena mine, but you've got the Mercedes mine, which is being run by Premier Gold. You've got Las Chispas, which is also being developed by Silvercrest. So it's a neat emerging district. And so, like Ermitaño, we think that there's a fantastic opportunity to discover additional resources of Kumobabi. These land packages are very large. The combined land package of Ermitaño and Kumobabi is close to 500 square kilometers. So we think there's ample room to make additional discoveries on that ground. I think, Bob, we probably covered off the royalties in Argentina a little bit. You might have any other, I don't know if you had any other comments on that, but.
Well, they're early stage projects that are being advanced by Magneterra Minerals. Magneterra just announced a deal on another project with Newmont in South America. These could be higher royalties. The minimum means if there's any government royalties imposed on these projects that we're still guaranteed a 1%, but they're early stage. So Magneterra in a recent drilling program last year did drill some interesting gold mineralization on one of the targets. So we think that these things could advance and become more meaningful with time.
Great.
So just to review the comprehensive exploration portfolio. So we've got gold and base metal projects all across the Western Cordillera of North America. We bring highly skilled teams. Again, the Nevada team from Renaissance. We've got a great track record. We've had some discoveries in our past, and then the Evrim team working in Western Canada and Mexico. Evrim recently acquired another Nevada-born, or I shouldn't say born, but a Nevada-trained and grown individual in Dave Groves. So the synergies in bringing Dave back into working in Nevada projects is really good. So again, focus on gold in Nevada, copper and gold in British Columbia, and of course, copper and gold in Mexico. So we feel like we have great exposure to discovery and to continue growing the royalty portfolio through exploration.
All right, so this looks a little bit about the future and a little bit about the past. I mean, it's something that Evrim and I know also Renaissance are extremely proud of is the joint venture deals that we've done historically. And we've done work with a combination of partners, both in the precious metal space and the base metal space as well. But over both companies' lives, there's been over $50 million of exploration work funded on a number of joint ventures and alliances. And so we expect that part of the work to continue, and that's going to really speak to our roots in mineral exploration. But with respect to putting the companies together, as Bob mentioned, and we've mentioned in prior slides, pro forma cash at May 31 will be approximately $13.5 million. That's going to be more than enough to cover Evrim as a going concern over the near term. Once we see the expected royalty revenue from Ermitaño come in, that will really keep things sustainable over a longer period. The combined entities, we expect to see a minimum $800,000 of G&A cost savings. As we all know, it's not cheap to run mineral exploration companies in a public setting, and so we hope to bring those costs down considerably. And obviously, as Bob mentioned, there's a real synergy between our exploration teams within the Western Cordillera of North America. And not only are we going to be efficient within those jurisdictions that we already operate, but there'll be lots of opportunities for groups within our company to move around, learn more about what's going on in different jurisdictions, and get a real solid understanding of sort of the key districts that we're going to work in. And as mentioned earlier, having the size of Origin and sort of the mandate and scope that we have will give us an improved capital scale. It will allow us to go out and look at royalty opportunities that might not be organically generated. So it puts us on the footing of I guess, in the royalty space as a royalty company, like a lot of the other royalty companies out there. But the differentiation within our group is clearly on the organic royalty generation side. And it's a spot that very few exploration companies get to have a royalty, a project that they actually created and a royalty that they actually crystallized. It's a very rare event. So having two junior exploration companies come together to do it, I think that's a pretty neat setup. So we're very excited for the future opportunities that might come our way.
So in going forward and talking about Origin, the leadership team shown here. So we've talked about this at length, and Paddy is going to go forward as president and CEO of Origin with Paul Van Eden as chairman. I'm planning to stick around and provide guidance through the transition, as well as contribute to, market communications, business development, try to keep deal flow on the Nevada side going. Plan to be involved in helping build this company and grow it into something special. Nothing much changes geographically. Headquarters in Vancouver, exploration offices in Reno and Hermosillo to support our field operations. We've agreed to appoint 2 directors from each side. That has not been decided yet, but will probably be soon. And again, I mentioned Dave Groves before. He's the technical leadership of the company as VP of Exploration. And Mahesh, and I may butcher the name, Leonage, is that right?
Leonage.
Leonage. Okay, sorry, Mahesh, if you're listening. Will lead the financial effort of the company. So strong leadership with a lot of experience, and we feel like we can do special things together.
Great. So in terms of sort of considering what business models or the business model considerations, we know that within this space, royalty companies are right now generating a lot of value through acquisition and creation. And I think with the way that the markets are set up for the precious metal space, timing is clearly, it's important here. And so, and I think, with the model that Origin is going to employ provides a sufficient differentiation within that competitor space to do something unique and special here. Obviously, we have worked both companies for a long time now as prospect generators, and we have loved the support that shareholder base has given us over time, and it's a patient shareholder base that's allowed us to put these assets together. And we welcome new investors that come into this market that will be attracted to this model. And generally for prospect generators, your market caps are so low that you do restrict yourself to a certain type of shareholder. This will be, I believe, a broader appeal to, it'll be appealing to a broader shareholder base. So we welcome in the additional investor base into this. As mentioned, a focus is going to be on organic royalty generation with the opportunities to look at various assets along the way. I think Evrim is going to be very focused in its royalty acquisition. And so we hope to be, and strategic. And I think the benefit of having a fairly technical team with a broad understanding of projects and deposits around North America is a definite advantage for us. And then above all, I mean, it's just the experience that our generative teams have. It's as I mentioned, organic royalty generation is probably the most elegant form of royalty crystallization there is. And so sticking to our roots on what we do on the mineral exploration side is going to be key.
So just to summarize, so this was a definitive agreement just signed yesterday, merger of equals. The way we've structured it, Evrim is acquiring all the outstanding stock of Renaissance. Paddy mentioned the ratio 1.2448. On the Renaissance side, we'll need a shareholder vote approving getting 66 2/3% of the votes. The Evrim shares needs the approval of 50%, a simple majority. And there's usual provisions in this deal. We're not soliciting alternative transactions, although if something comes in, we each have a right to match superior proposals. And we put in a modest termination fee should something happen that breaks up this deal, $1 million. The plans for the future management information circulars should be going out to the market in July. We're going to shareholder meetings of both companies probably in August and expect to close the transaction sometime probably late August, early September. So that's the summary of what we're doing. And I think at this point Lily can start reading the questions, or however that works on this Zoom call.
Sure, thanks, Bob. We didn't really get many questions, so I'll go over. You kind of covered already the first question from Robert Farrell. Any idea how large the silicon deposit may be? So, Bob, I
Well,
believe.
you know, in going through the negotiation for this deal, we obviously looked hard at silicon, and you know, there's only, I mean, Anglo's drilled about 50 holes to date, and so it's really hard to get a meaningful metric around that. But based on the size of the alteration cell out there, you know, very forward looking. This could be a multi-million ounce deposit, and it's really too early to say anything, and I can't back it up with any data. But it's a large system. We know it's a gold-bearing district. If we compare it to the other deposits in the district, it's most like Bullfrog, which was developed by Barrick, and they mined about 2.5 million ounces from Bullfrog. We hope that Silicon might exceed that, but at this stage of the game, it's really too early to put anything meaningful on the table other than to say we think this could be a multi-million ounce deposit. I'm as anxious as everybody else to hear more about this project.
Thanks, Bob. The next question is for Paddy or Bob. Can you quantify G&A reduction?
To break it down right now, I don't have all the data in front of me, but where we see significant cost savings comes in from having one CFO, one legal counsel, you know, regulatory costs, business development costs, which, you know, when you're selling projects and trying to move projects into exploration partners' hands, that is a significant cost. So we're going to get down to one of those. We're getting down to one set of investor relations costs, conference costs, travel costs. Those things all, you know, impact heavily on G&A, and so the savings across that spectrum becomes quite significant. You know, auditor costs. There's a number, but once we get things a little bit more succinct, I mean, we do have that information. We can get it out to people who are interested in learning more.
The next question is, will you be a gold dominant or take copper and other metals as they come?
I think from a perspective at this stage, you know, gold is a focus. Evrim has been in both camps, and I think it speaks to the jurisdictions that we will continue to operate in, both in Mexico and Northwest British Columbia. There's been a focus on gold deposits and gold-rich copper porphyry deposits or targets, anyways. And so I don't think that will change. But certainly with the addition of you know, the Renaissance team and what they do in Nevada, there is going to be a definite lean towards the precious metals. And in this space, precious metals are definitely what's getting the attention. I don't know if you have anything else to add there, Bob, but.
Nope, you covered it well.
Next question is, I'm interested on how this impacts existing Renaissance warrants holders.
It should be pretty seamless. We've done our research on U.S. securities issues, and it actually, I'm a little bit out of my expertise in here, but we're guaranteed that there will be really no change, and the fact that the merged company will be a foreign private issuer actually makes it a little bit better for warrant holders. So I think there will be a, you know, other than the application of the exchange ratio, I don't think anything should change for warrant holders.
Okay.
Next question.
Sorry, Liliana, can I just interject?
Sure.
I'm getting text questions.
Oh.
There's a question for Bob. Does he know the strike length along which Anglo has drilled of silicon?
Yes, the current drill pattern is 3 kilometers long from northwest to southeast. They've done a bit of reclamation on the northwest and southeast end of that pattern, which we could interpret to mean they didn't see any encouragement there. And the near-term drilling plan that's in their permit shows them actually expanding from a core area out to the northeast and southwest. So It looks like they learned something in their initial drilling and they're chasing it in a bit of a different direction. But back to the original question, the original pattern was 3 kilometers long along the Silicon-Thompson fault.
Great. Sorry, Lily.
No problem. Next question is, what is the new share count? And yes, this presentation will be on the website later.
The new share count is approximately 170 million. There will shares. There will be, I believe, it's on our presentation. If we go in, Bob, if you go down to the appendix, but there'll be, so I don't say, yeah, there we go. There you see the cash, the shares outstanding, the options, and the warrants there. So 23.3 million warrants, along with 12.4 million options.
And final question, could you expand a little on M&A, looking at merging with other companies or mostly projects? Presumably, you looked at several companies before approaching Renaissance. What was Renaissance highlight?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Sure, expanding a little on M&A, looking at merging with other companies or mostly on projects?
Oh, going forward, you know, I think one of the challenges that approaches companies, even, you know, with Origin, is that the challenge of being able to compete with larger companies and, you know, just going out and buying royalties. Our cost of capital is arguably going to be higher than some of the, say, big companies. However, so, you know, I think the strategy behind what we will employ really comes down to a real specific focus and understanding and opportunity. So it's being nimble, it's being flexible, and it's, you know, having a real specific focus on individual royalties is perhaps maybe taking a shotgun approach where you're buying a basket of royalties and seeing what sticks. And so that I think will be a differentiator for us going forward. So, you know, whether it's M&A or property level type stuff, I think we're a little bit indifferent as towards which way we go with it. It's whatever is going to create value for Origin going forward, the most value.
A couple more questions came in. Will the new company have a US listing?
At this stage, we'll have to look at that. I know that both companies had one. Renaissance had a more robust one. It was under the OTC QB listing, and we had Evrim had an OTC, I guess it's the pink sheets or the gray mark as they call it down in the US, listing as well. Both companies are what they call DTC eligible, so getting that US listing isn't a difficult one, and obviously if it makes sense, it's something that we'll pursue. It just we need the dust to settle on this first, and we'll look at the next steps on important issues such as that.
And what quarter of 2021 do you expect royalty revenues to begin?
It's a good question. If you go to First Majestic's public disclosure record on their website, they had always indicated a Q1 2021 production start date for Ermitaño, and that's led us to believe that royalty revenue would flow shortly thereafter. Because of the situation surrounding COVID-19, my guess is that's been pushed back. I don't have, you know, full disclosure and full knowledge of that, but I think it's reasonable to suggest that it would be delayed by any length of time that operations have been reduced in Mexico. So it's a bit of a moving target at this stage, but yeah, so it's tough to comment on, but I would be surprised if it's Q1 2021 now.
And that looks like those are all the questions. If you think of anything else you'd like to ask us, you can send your questions to info@evrimresources.com or to me, Liliana W@evrimresources.com. As I mentioned before, we'll have a copy of the presentation on both company websites later, available for download. And the recording will also be shared via email by the end of the week.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank
Paddy
you,
and
Lily.
Bob.
Thanks everybody for attending. Very much
Yep,
appreciate
thanks
it.
everybody.